Saturday morning, 1983. You walk into the bathroom and your bare feet hit carpet. Not a bath mat. Wall-to-wall carpet, cut right around the base of the toilet. The toilet has a fuzzy lid cover in dusty rows. There is a crocheted doll sitting on the back of the tank, hiding a spare roll underneath her skirt. The sink is avocado green. The wallpaper has velvet flowers you can run your fingers across. And on the counter, next to a bar of soap with actual volcanic rock ground into it, sits a telephone. Every bathroom in America looked something like this, and nobody questioned a single piece of it. So hit subscribe, because here are 25 strange bathroom items from the 1980s that you will not find in any home today. Number 25. The fuzzy toilet lid cover. By 1983, you could walk into any Kmart or Woolworths and find a three-piece bathroom set sealed in plastic, a contour rug for the base of the toilet, a rectangular bath mat, and a thick plush lid cover that snapped onto the seat with elastic bands. They came in every color imaginable: dusty rose, seafoam green, powder blue. The problem was physics. That lid would not stay up on its own. You would prop it open, turn around, and it would come slamming back down with enough force to echo through the house. Every man in America knew that sound. The fabric also absorbed moisture and odor in ways the packaging never mentioned. By the mid-1990s, interior designers started calling them unsanitary, and within a decade they had vanished from every major retailer. But for 20 solid years, a bathroom without a fuzzy lid cover was considered unfinished. Number 24. The Tidy Bowl Man. In 1980, few advertising mascots were better known than the tiny man in a white captain suit who lived inside your toilet tank. Tidy Bowl sold an automatic toilet cleaner, a small plastic container that clipped inside the tank and released blue dye into the water with every flush. The mascot sailed across the tank in television commercials like he lived there full-time. Children genuinely wondered if there was a little person inside the toilet. The product turned your bowl water a deep, almost medicinal blue, and if you forgot to replace the cartridge for a few months, it left a permanent blue ring on the porcelain that no amount of scrubbing could remove. Tidy Bowl still exists in some form, but the boat captain, the blue water, and the clip-on tank container that turned your toilet into an aquarium have all disappeared. Number 23. Avocado green bathroom fixtures. What made these genuinely bizarre was not the color, it was the permanence. From the late 1960s through around 1979, manufacturers like Kohler and American Standard fired their porcelain in avocado green at the factory. Not a surface coating, not a glaze you could sand off. The color went through the entire material, which meant when tastes changed, the only option was demolition. You could not repaint a green toilet. You could not refinish a bathtub that was avocado down to its core. Some smaller manufacturers kept offering the shade into the early 1980s, but the major brands had moved on by the time disco died. Across the country through the late 1980s and into the 1990s, millions of homeowners paid plumbers to sledgehammer perfectly functional porcelain and haul it to the curb, all because the shade had fallen out of fashion. Junkyards filled entire rows with green fixtures stacked like ceramic gravestones. The strangest twist of all, a matching avocado green American Standard set from 1973 now sells to vintage collectors for more than the white replacement ever cost. Number 22. Bath oil beads. They looked like small translucent jewels sitting in a glass jar on the edge of the tub. Inside each bead was a concentrated dose of scented oil sealed in a thin gelatin shell. You would drop 2 or 3 into a warm bath, and within seconds the capsule dissolved, releasing oil that spread across the surface of the water in a slick, fragrant film. The Village Bath brand was the most common, but Avon sold them by the millions through their door-to-door catalog. The strange part was what happened next. You stepped out of the tub coated in a layer of oil so thick that a towel could barely absorb it, and the porcelain became so slippery that getting out without grabbing the wall was a genuine safety problem. By the late 1990s, bath bombs had taken their place, and the gelatin bead format quietly vanished from American shelves. Number 21. the bathroom ceiling heat lamp. In millions of American homes during the 1970s and 1980s, a 250-watt infrared bulb sat mounted in the ceiling directly above the spot where you stepped out of the shower. You would flip a dedicated wall switch, and within seconds, the bulb threw off enough radiant heat to warm your wet skin from several feet away. The bulb glowed a deep red, giving the entire bathroom the look of a photography darkroom. Newtone and Broan were the two biggest manufacturers, and most models came with a built-in exhaust fan and a timer that shut off after 15 minutes. The strangeness was the arrangement. You were standing wet and bare under a glass surface hot enough to cause burns on contact if you reached up and touched it. Building codes tightened through the 1990s. Recessed panel heaters replaced them, and the exposed red bulb disappeared from American bathrooms. Number 20. The Bonnet Portable Hair Dryer. Before the handheld blow dryer took over, millions of American women dried their hair by sitting perfectly still for 30 minutes under a plastic bonnet connected to a box by a flexible hose. You would set your hair in curlers, pull the bonnet over your head, plug the unit into the bathroom outlet, and wait while warm air circulated around your skull. The noise was constant and loud enough to make conversation impossible. General Electric, Sunbeam, and Conair sold millions of these through the 1970s and into the mid-1980s. Most families kept one stored under the bathroom sink or in the hall linen closet. When the handheld dryer became cheap and powerful enough to do the same job in 5 minutes, the bonnet version disappeared almost overnight. If you ever saw your mother sitting on the edge of the tub in that plastic dome, you remember exactly how strange it looked. Number 19. The razor blade disposal slot. Open the medicine cabinet in almost any American home built between 1940 and 1985, and somewhere on the back wall, usually near the bottom, you will find a narrow slot barely wider than a coin. That slot had one purpose: disposing of used double-edged razor blades. You would finish shaving, remove the blade from the safety razor, and slide it through the slot directly into the wall cavity. There was nothing on the other side. No container, no collection bag, just the open space between the wall studs. The blades would fall, bounce off pipes and wooden framing, and settle into a pile at the bottom of the wall. Nobody retrieved them. Nobody thought about it. You shaved, slotted the blade, and moved on with your morning. During renovation projects decades later, contractors began opening bathroom walls and discovering what can only be described as blade graveyards. Hundreds, sometimes thousands, of corroded razor blades heaped between the studs. Some piles dated back 40 years. The blades were rusted together in metallic clumps, many still sharp enough to slice through a work glove. Documented cases exist of renovation crews finding enough blades in a single wall cavity to fill a coffee can. The logic at the time made perfect sense to the families living in those houses. A used blade was too dangerous to toss in a wastebasket where a child might reach in and get cut. The wall was considered permanent. What nobody planned for was that the wall was not actually permanent, and that someone eventually would have to open it up and deal with that pile. The slot became obsolete in the late 1980s when disposable cartridge razors replaced the double-edged blade, and it remains a mysterious rectangle in the back of old medicine cabinets that nobody under 40 can explain. Number 18. The Electric Hot Lather Machine. This was a countertop appliance that did exactly one thing. It heated your can of shaving cream. You would load a standard can of Barbasol or Colgate into a plastic housing, plug the unit into the wall, and wait for it to warm the foam to roughly body temperature. When you pressed the dispenser, out came a ribbon of heated lather that felt luxurious for about 4 seconds before it cooled off on your face. The machines sat on bathroom counters across the country through the late 1970s and 1980s, taking up space next to the toothbrush holder and the soap dish, plugged in at all times, dedicated entirely to making one daily squirt of shaving cream slightly warmer than room temperature. The strange part was the proportion. An entire electrical appliance with a heating element, a power cord, and a permanent spot on the counter existed to solve a problem you could have fixed by running the can under hot water for 10 seconds. By the early 1990s, most of them had been unplugged, shoved under the sink, and forgotten. Number 17. Body on Tap Beer Shampoo. In 1978, Bristol-Myers put actual beer into a shampoo and sold it in a brown bottle that looked like it belonged in a six-pack more than on a bathroom shelf. The marketing claimed that the proteins in real beer gave hair more body and shine than ordinary shampoo could manage. Millions of Americans stood in the shower through the late 1970s and into the 1980s, lathering their heads with a product that smelled faintly of hops and barley malt, rinsing out what was essentially diluted ale, and believing their hair was thicker for it. The stranger part was the commitment. Body on Tap was not cheap. It cost more than Prel or Head & Shoulders, and the entire selling point was one ingredient you could have poured over your head straight from the refrigerator for a fraction of the price. Kim Basinger did the television commercials, and for a few years that was enough to keep it on the shelf. The product quietly vanished from drugstore aisles by the mid-1980s, and no major manufacturer has tried putting beer in a shampoo bottle since. Number 16. Flocked velvet bathroom wallpaper. In the 1970s and into the 1980s, homeowners covered their bathroom walls in wallpaper that had a raised, velvety texture you could feel with your fingertips. The patterns were usually floral or damask. The backgrounds were gold or deep red, and the flocked portions stood up from the surface like soft felt. It looked like the inside of a Victorian parlor, which was exactly the intention. The problem was that flocked wallpaper and steam do not coexist. After a few months of daily showers, the adhesive behind the paper began to soften, the edges peeled away from the wall, and the velvet surface collected moisture that turned into mildew underneath the raised pattern where nobody could see it. Entire rolls would sag off the wall in poorly ventilated bathrooms. By the late 1980s, the trend was finished, replaced by semi-gloss paint that could actually handle a wet room. Number 15. The clear resin novelty toilet seat. Somewhere in the late 1970s, someone decided that a toilet seat should double as a conversation piece. The result was a transparent seat made of cast polyester resin with objects embedded inside it. Seashells were the most common version, but stores sold seats with coins, barbed wire, fishing lures, old newspaper clippings, golf tees, and even real dollar bills suspended in the clear plastic. The seat weighed considerably more than a standard wooden or plastic one, and the resin surface was always cold to the touch in winter. The strangest part was the commitment. You had to look at whatever was sealed inside that seat every single day for as long as you lived in that house. It was not a poster you could take down. It was bolted to the toilet. Novelty seats still exist online, but the era when they sat in mainstream American bathrooms ended somewhere around 1990. Number 14. Wall-to-wall bathroom carpet. This is the one that future generations will have the hardest time believing. In millions of American homes during the 1970s and 1980s, the bathroom floor was not tile, not linoleum, and not vinyl. It was carpet. The same kind of carpet that ran through the living room and the hallway, cut to fit around the base of the toilet and the edge of the bathtub, sometimes color-coordinated with the fuzzy lid cover and the contour rug sitting on top of it. The logic at the time seemed reasonable. Carpet was warm under bare feet on a cold morning. Tile was not. And in an era before radiant floor heating existed in residential homes, that warmth mattered, especially in northern states where a bathroom floor could feel like standing on a sheet of ice from November through March. But carpet in a bathroom does exactly what you would expect carpet in a bathroom to do. It absorbs water. It absorbs everything. Every splash from the tub, every drip from the sink, every miss from anyone in the house with less than perfect aim. The carpet stayed damp for hours in a poorly ventilated room, and over months and years, the padding underneath developed a smell that no amount of cleaning could eliminate. Pull the carpet up during a renovation and the subfloor underneath often showed dark stains and, in the worst cases, actual mold growing in patterns that traced the outline of where the toilet met the floor. The trend died slowly through the late 1980s and into the 1990s as homeowners replaced carpet with ceramic tile or sheet vinyl. By the 2000s, a carpeted bathroom had become the first thing a real estate agent would flag on a walkthrough. But for nearly 2 decades, it was standard, and anyone who lived through that era knows exactly what that damp carpet felt like between their toes on a Saturday morning. Number 13. The bathroom wall-mounted ashtray. Before the cultural shift against indoor smoking, bathrooms had their own dedicated ashtrays, and many were built directly into the wall. Chrome-plated, spring-loaded, and recessed into the tile or drywall at elbow height, these ashtrays were standard fixtures in homes built during the 1960s and 1970s. Hotels installed them beside every toilet and next to the bathtub. The idea of lighting a cigarette in the bath was not just acceptable, it was common enough that manufacturers designed a permanent fixture for it. The same era that covered bathrooms in moisture-absorbing carpet and velvet wallpaper also welcomed open flame and loose ash into the smallest, most enclosed room in the house. Ventilation was an afterthought. By the mid-1990s, indoor smoking had declined sharply, and wall-mounted ashtrays became artifacts that homeowners either pried out during renovations or painted over and forgot about entirely. Number 12. Mercurochrome. If you scraped your knee, cut your finger, or tore up any part of your body during the 1970s or 1980s, there is a strong chance someone in your house opened the medicine cabinet and painted the wound with a bright red liquid that stained your skin for days. That was mercurochrome, and the reason it left such a vivid mark was its active ingredient: merbromin, an organomercury compound. Mercury, applied directly onto broken skin. Parents did it without hesitation because their own parents had done the same, and their grandparents before them. Kids called it monkey blood because of the color. The FDA moved mercurochrome to a not generally recognized as safe classification in 1998, effectively ending its sale in the United States. The reasoning was straightforward. Mercury does not belong on open wounds. But for decades, that little red bottle was the first line of defense in every American bathroom medicine cabinet. Number 11. The bathroom sun lamp. Before tanning salons became a commercial industry, people tanned at home using ultraviolet lamps mounted on adjustable stands or clamped directly to the bathroom counter. General Electric and Sperti sold models marketed for both health and beauty, and the instruction manuals recommended starting with just a few minutes of exposure at a carefully measured distance from the skin. Most people ignored those instructions completely. You would sit on the closed toilet lid with the lamp aimed squarely at your face, wearing the small plastic goggles that came in the box, and cook your skin until it turned pink. The lamps emitted concentrated UVB radiation strong enough to cause serious burns in under 10 minutes if the distance was wrong. Early models had no built-in timer. Dermatologists spent years treating the damage afterward, and the home sun lamp quietly vanished from bathroom counters as both the medical community and the general public came to understand what ultraviolet radiation actually does to exposed skin over time. Number 10. The epilotti. In 1986, a small Israeli company introduced a hair removal device that became one of the most talked about bathroom products of the entire decade, and not because anyone enjoyed using it. The epilotti was a handheld electric device built around a tightly wound metal coil spring that rotated at high speed. As the coil turned, it flexed open and shut, grabbing individual hairs and ripping them out at the root. That was the full mechanism. A motorized spring that yanked hair from your body one strand at a time. The pain was legendary. Women described it as having a rubber band snapped against the skin hundreds of times per minute. First-time users routinely drew blood. The instruction booklet recommended starting on a small area to build up tolerance, which was the manufacturer's way of admitting that the device caused enough discomfort that you needed to train yourself to withstand it. Beauty magazines reviewed it with a mixture of fascination and horror. Despite all of this, the epilotti reportedly sold more than 10 million units worldwide in its first 3 years on the market. It was positioned as a long-term alternative to shaving that would eventually cause the hair to grow back finer and thinner. Women tolerated the pain because the promise was that it would improve with repeated use. For some it did. For many, it did not. The rotating spring also had a tendency to snap, and when the coil broke mid-use, it could catch and tear skin instead of pulling hair. By the early 1990s, newer epilator designs replaced the spring with smoother disc mechanisms that were somewhat less painful. The original spring model vanished from store shelves, but every woman who used one in the late 1980s can still describe exactly how it felt. Number 9. The bathroom telephone. In an era before cell phones, being reachable meant having a phone in every room, and for a surprising number of American families in the 1970s and 1980s, that included the bathroom. A wall-mounted extension phone, usually in a color that matched the fixtures, connected to the same landline that served the kitchen and the bedroom. Some models had extra long handset cords specifically so you could reach the phone from inside the tub. The logic was simple. If the phone rang while you were in the bath, you should not have to drip water across the entire house to answer it. The strangeness is that nobody questioned mounting a device connected to an electrical system within arm's reach of a bathtub full of water. A single slip of a wet hand and the phone was in the bath with you. Modern building codes would not permit it. The bathroom phone disappeared the moment cordless phones became affordable in the early 1990s, taking the wall mount bracket and the extra long cord with it. Number 8. Non-safety glass shower doors. Before the Consumer Product Safety Commission mandated tempered or laminated safety glass for bathroom enclosures in 1977, millions of American homes had shower and tub doors fitted with standard plate glass, the same kind of glass used in picture frames. If you slipped on a wet surface and put your arm or shoulder through that door, it did not crumble into small, blunt pebbles the way tempered glass does. It shattered into long, jagged shards capable of deep lacerations. Emergency rooms treated thousands of these injuries every year through the 1970s. The federal regulation applied to new construction, but it did not require homeowners to replace existing installations. That meant non-safety glass shower doors remained in older homes well into the 1990s and sometimes beyond. Many were never swapped out until a full bathroom renovation forced the issue. A pane of breakable glass standing between you and a hard fall on wet tile, one of the strangest safety oversights of the entire era. Number 7. The home permanent wave kit. The bathroom counter would be covered in newspaper, every window thrown open, and the smell would still reach the neighbors. Home perm kits from Tony, Ogilvy, and Lilt turned ordinary American bathrooms into amateur chemistry labs throughout the 1970s and 1980s. The process involved sectioning wet hair into dozens of tiny plastic curlers, then soaking each one with a solution that was essentially diluted ammonium thioglycolate, a chemical strong enough to break the structural bonds inside hair. You sat with the curlers in for 20 to 30 minutes while the solution did its work, and the ammonia fumes filled the entire house. Then came the neutralizer, another chemical applied curl by curl. The whole operation took 2 to 3 hours, left chemical burns on foreheads and earlobes if the solution dripped, and produced results that ranged from soft waves to a tightly frizzed disaster with no middle ground. The boxes carried warnings about ventilation and skin contact that read like instructions for handling industrial solvents. Women did this to themselves every 6 to 8 weeks as regular maintenance, and the bathroom was effectively a hazmat zone for an entire afternoon. Number 6. The wall-mounted Dixie cup dispenser. Somewhere in the 1960s, American families decided that cupping your hands under the bathroom faucet was not civilized enough, and the solution was to drill 2 holes into the wall, mount a chrome or plastic bracket right beside the medicine cabinet, and feed it a sleeve of tiny cone-shaped paper cups that fanned out one at a time from the bottom. That was the strange part. Not the cup itself, but the infrastructure. An entire permanent wall fixture with its own screw holes, its own aisle in the grocery store, and its own supply chain of refill packs existed for the sole purpose of handing you 3 ounces of water in a container you crushed and threw away 4 seconds later. The ritual was identical in every household. You brushed your teeth, pulled a cup, filled it at the tap, rinsed, crushed the cone in your fist, and dropped it in the wastebasket. Some families used them for swallowing aspirin. Some kids just liked pulling cups out one after another to watch the next one drop into position, burning through a week of refills in 90 seconds. Dixie sold millions of those packs through the 1970s and 1980s. By the mid-1990s, the dispensers started coming off the walls, leaving behind two small holes and a rectangle of paint a slightly different shade than the rest. Today, you cup your hands under the faucet, the very act your grandparents considered too primitive for company, and call it done. Number 5. The Clairol Foot Fixer. This was a plug-in foot bath that sat on the bathroom floor, filled with water, heated itself, and vibrated the soles of your feet through a motorized platform at the bottom of the basin. Clairol sold it through the late 1970s and 1980s, and the routine was always the same. You would carry the unit to the bathroom, set it on the tile, fill it from the tub faucet, plug it into the wall outlet, and lower both feet into electrically heated water while the motor buzzed loud enough to hear from 2 rooms away. Water sloshed over the rim with every shift of your weight and pooled on the floor around the base of the unit. The power cord ran from the outlet directly to a basin of water sitting on wet tile, with no ground fault circuit interrupter between you and the wiring. That was a Sunday evening ritual in houses across the country. Your mother would sit on the edge of the tub reading a magazine with both feet submerged in a vibrating pool of electrified water, and nobody in the family considered this remotely unusual. Modern foot spas still exist, but the original Clairol model, with its bare minimum of electrical insulation and its talent for turning the bathroom floor into a shallow pond, is long gone. Number 4. The Home Enema Bag. Hanging on the back of the bathroom door or tucked behind the toilet in a cabinet nobody opened in front of guests, nearly every American household in the 1970s and 1980s owned a red rubber enema bag with a long hose and a plastic nozzle. It looked like a hot water bottle with plumbing attached. The concept was simple and the practice was strangely widespread. Fill the bag with warm water, hang it from a hook or towel rack at shoulder height, and administer a self-directed internal rinse. Families kept them the way they kept aspirin, as a general-purpose home remedy. Constipation, headaches, the onset of a cold, a child running a fever. The enema bag came out for all of it. Mothers administered them to children without a second thought. Drugstores sold the kits next to the bandages and the hydrogen peroxide, and nobody considered it unusual. By the 1990s, the entire concept quietly vanished from mainstream American bathrooms. The bags disappeared from store shelves, the hooks came off the doors, and an entire generation grew up with no idea that their parents and grandparents had routinely performed a medical procedure on themselves in the bathroom every time they felt slightly off. Number 3. The Exposed Coil Bathroom Wall Heater. Recessed into the wall between studs and covered by a chrome or painted metal grill, these electric units used nichrome wire coils that glowed bright orange the moment you turned them on. They were installed in bathrooms without central heating ductwork, which was common in older homes throughout the South and in houses built before forced air systems became the standard. The coils were clearly visible through the grill slats, and they reached surface temperatures high enough to ignite a towel that fell or was draped against the cover. The on-off control was usually a simple dial mounted at waist height, and there was no thermostat, no timer, and no automatic shutoff of any kind. You turned it on, the coils glowed orange, the small room warmed up, and you turned it off whenever you remembered. If you forgot, it ran all day. Modern fan-forced ceramic bathroom heaters have replaced them in nearly every home, and that glowing orange element behind a thin metal grill is now a renovation red flag. Number 2. The Crocheted Toilet Tank Cover. The fuzzy lid cover from number 25 had a companion piece, and it was even stranger. Across America in the 1970s and 1980s, handmade or store-bought crocheted covers were draped over the top of the toilet tank, usually in a contrasting color to the lid set below. Some were flat rectangular covers with scalloped edges. Others were far more elaborate. A plastic doll torso rising out of a wide crocheted skirt that concealed a spare roll of toilet paper underneath. The doll version was a craft project featured in crochet pattern books and women's magazines for years. Guests would encounter a smiling doll perched on the back of the toilet and have to decide whether it was decoration or functional storage. It was both. The crocheted tank topper vanished as bathroom aesthetics shifted toward clean surfaces in the 1990s, and the toilet paper doll became a punchline for a generation that still cannot quite believe it was ever a real thing in real bathrooms. Number 1. The padded vinyl toilet seat. The standard hard plastic or wooden seat was not enough for the 1970s and 1980s. Manufacturers offered a cushioned alternative, a seat filled with dense foam padding and wrapped in vinyl upholstery, sold in colors like mauve, powder blue, and dusty rose. When you sat down, the seat compressed beneath you and exhaled a soft hiss of trapped air escaping through the seams. That sound is burned into the memory of anyone who used one. The vinyl was warm in summer and spared you the cold shock of hard plastic on a winter morning. The problem was durability. Over time, the vinyl cracked and moisture seeped into the foam underneath. The inside of the seat became a breeding ground for mold and bacteria that no amount of surface cleaning could reach. A cracked seat could also pinch bare skin in the split vinyl, which was exactly as unpleasant as it sounds. They vanished from hardware stores by the mid-1990s, replaced by slow-close hinged seats that solved the slamming problem without introducing upholstery to a toilet. If anything on this list took you back to a bathroom you grew up in, drop a comment and tell us which one your family had. Whether it was the fuzzy lid cover, the carpet on the floor, or that little red bottle of mercurochrome sitting in the medicine cabinet. Those bathrooms were stranger than any of us realized at the time. Share this with someone who remembers, and please subscribe to keep these memories from disappearing for good.